Hello and welcome back to Planning and Instructional Strategies, what we talked about today in class. If you remember, we started off today talking about the difference between formative and summative assessment. And you will need to have on your very last day a summative assessment. Whatever you and your classroom teacher decide, it could be a test, it could be an essay, whatever you decide, it could be a project. You need to have some type of summative assessment. You also need to make sure that you have various formative assessments throughout the week. Remember, formative assessments can be things like questions, classroom discussions, learning activities, many of the different strategies and methods we've talked about this semester. Also recall that you must have one student self-assessment minimum in your 6-day unit. So please do not forget to include that. Again, your summative assessment could be any format, but remember that it should be summative in terms of it needs to encompass your entire unit. We talked about student self-assessment and what it looks like. It is not simply just having students take a paper that they did and grade themselves. It is getting them to think about how they are actually doing. It doesn't have to be a large-scale activity. It can be something small. It can be small feedback that informs you areas they are struggling with or areas they are still unsure. But remember, you need to actually collect some feedback from them and that they need to actually assess themselves. Some of your fellow classmates talk to you about exit tickets, and you can even use those as a form of student self-assessment. Remember, you can have direct instruction in your lesson plan. But realize that you need to make sure that students have an idea of what it's about, and you need to stop and ask frequent questions throughout, as well as giving them frequent opportunities to practice what it is that they have learned. Also, you can have cooperative learning. It's a good idea to have students work in pairs or triads. I probably wouldn't go larger than groups of 4 at this time. Remember beforehand that you need to give them a quiet signal so that you can get their attention back. And you also need to give them your rules and requirements for working with a partner. It's also a good idea to set up roles for each person to have so that they understand what it is they are supposed to be doing. Text structures is very important in that all subject areas are expected to teach their students how to read the text, especially textbooks, looking at things like sequencing, looking at things like comparing and contrasting. So if you are using any text type materials, point out these text structures to your students while they are reading so that they can better understand the material. We then talked about and spent most of the time working on your unit matrix. Remember, you need to think about what it is that you are teaching your students. Your questions and objectives need to align. You need to have measurable objectives, so use that Bloom's or depth of knowledge verbs that I gave you. You should have 4 or more formative assessments, and you should have 4 or more instructional methods throughout the week, different. So we don't want to see the same stuff each and every day. Students must assess themselves at least one time, and it's really important if you can find a way where students can use the feedback that you give them so that they can improve their learning. This skeleton for your unit is due to us on February 13th, and we had a large work session for it. I sent out the example for this. I also sent out a blank format. Please follow the example. Please follow what Dr. Rydell and I told you and talked to you about today. We are the ones grading you on this. We are trying to make this simple and comprehensible for you, so make sure that you follow what we stated. If you have any questions or anything, please let us know, but good luck. We'll see you Monday.